All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 5 of the Cayeluhb Podcast, where I answer your burning questions, anything you have any questions about, anything you want to know. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to start it with a quick disclaimer, because this was brought to my attention recently, and I just want to get it out of the way. If you ask a question and I answer your question, first of all, it should be in no way used as a substitution for professional help, right? I am not a therapist. I do not have certification. I'm not a scholar on a lot of the topics I talk about. I like to think that I sound thought out and well-spoken. And that's really the point of why I started this podcast. That's why I think that I'm good at it, is because I'm able to think on my feet and I'm able to put stuff together. But it has been brought up to me that maybe some of the stuff that I talk about, I might not be qualified to talk about. And in response to that, I just want to say, I think that is kind of the point of me being here, is to share my opinions. And I want to tell you guys right now that I think disagreement is a great thing. Disagreement brings about discourse, which brings about conversations, which brings about healthy changes in each person in the discussion, in the disagreement. So if I say something that you disagree with, feel free, leave it in the comments. Send an email to it, into the email in the bio, dbdcayeluhb@gmail.com. Maybe I'll have you on as a guest and we'll talk about it. Feel 100% free to do that, because I want this place to be an open forum for ideas, for knowledge, and to really just talk to one another about life, and to really just, I guess, if I had to put a goal on the podcast, like one theme, it would be really examining the world around you, examining the people around you. And I think that the most important thing that you can learn from this is that you are not the only person struggling, especially in a time like this. When none of us can really go out, and we're all not having the best of mental health. There are people out there that feel the same way you do, and you are not alone. And I feel like that's really what I want this to be about. And yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not certified in any way. You shouldn't take this and run with it and decide that this is going to be your life motto for the next 30 years. I'm just a 17-year-old kid talking about my experiences and my opinion based on those experiences. All we really are is the sum of our experiences, in my opinion. And yeah, I think the whole point of this is really to address my opinions on the matter. And honestly, if this is very frustrating to you to hear me say or something along those lines, I'm trying not to be rude. I mean this in the kindest way possible, right? If this podcast is unhealthy for you to listen to, like you listen to it and it upsets you, you listen to it and it frustrates you, by all means, don't feel a need to listen. All right, you don't owe me anything. Do what's best for you, right? Do what is the most positive thing for you. Work for yourself. If you cannot listen to this podcast, that is okay. Prioritize you over supporting me. And of course, I appreciate your support. But if you think that hearing my opinions in a manner like this, that I'm not necessarily certified to talk about, which I acknowledge, if you think that is too much for you, by all means, I will not take offense if you decide that it's too much for you and you can't listen to the podcast. I totally understand that. Anyways, I just wanted to get that out of the way. So moving on to question 1. This question comes from my good friend Josh, who I met online. And Josh asks, why did you decide to play chess on stream on a Tuesday night? I decided to take this question and more talk about my chess career, because that really leads into it. So I've been playing chess since the 5th or 6th grade. I never was really playing seriously. I was in the chess club, but that was really just, you went after school on Mondays, you played a few games with your friends, and then that was that was the end of it, right? Like, I never really studied the game as a kid, or anything like that. But at the start of quarantine, I mean, I just had nothing to do. So I went on chess.com, I found my old account, and I just started playing games. I started playing Blitz, I started playing Rapid. For people that aren't knowledgeable in chess, a Blitz game is when you have 5 to 3 minutes of time to play your moves. And a Rapid game is when you have 10 minutes of time to play your moves. And I mean, not long after I started playing, there was the chess boom on Twitch, thanks to streamers like XQC, Ludwig, and then masters of the game like the Potez twins, Hikaru Nakamura really blew the game up. And then you have world champion Magnus Carlsen out here streaming sometimes, which is awesome. I think that's like the coolest thing in the world, that you can watch a Magnus Carlsen stream. So yeah, I feel like that is a that is really cool. Chess is a game that really everybody can learn from. It's a great metaphor for a lot of things, I think. And yeah, so I've been playing it for a while. Not as seriously right now. When I was seriously doing a rating climbing, like from the beginning of quarantine to probably middle of this summer, and I was playing like 6 to 7 plus games a day. I went from being rated 650 to 1200. In that like 4 to 5 month period of time, I played a lot. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoy the game. The openings that I like the most, I like to play the King's Indian attack. I like to play the Scandinavian system. I like to play the English, and I like to play the French defense. So yeah, the reason I decided to play chess on stream was because I wanted to. I enjoy playing chess. And I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't really want to work my brain that much. It was late at night. Well, I say work my brain, but then I went and played the game that is probably arguably the most brain taxing. So I didn't want to play something that was necessarily high energy or stressful. So yeah, I think that's where my mindset was at on Tuesday. But yeah, I enjoy playing chess. I think that to Josh, who asked this question, I think if you just played a few games of chess, you would start to enjoy it too. But I know that's totally out of the question. You would never play chess regardless. So I appreciate the question. If you are an enjoyer of chess and you want to see if you want to see chess streams, you can just head on over to twitch.tv/Cayeluhb, Cayeluhb, for some of the best 1200 rated chess content on Twitch. All right, so moving on to question number 2. This question comes from my good friend Jack, who I haven't been able to see in a while, and I'm very frustrated with that, and I hope he's doing well. Jack asks, does love constitute success? So my view on that, like my interpretation of the question is basically asking, if you love what you're doing, if you love who you're with, does that make you successful? So right, the first thing I think about is a career. If you love what you're doing, right, and you love the people you're working with, and you love the place you're working, but you're only making $40,000 a year, are you successful? So, I don't know. This is definitely something that I really don't have a lot of experience to talk to, because in everything I do that I love, I am somewhat successful in the technical skill ability in that. So like, for example, running. I love running. I love the team. I love meeting with everybody every day. It's the highlight of my day. I constantly look forward to it. And that I really, really love doing that. So I would say that is successful. It's something that makes me happy. But then in terms of racing, I'm not the fastest guy in the state, but I'm also certainly not the slowest. I would say I'm above average. Maybe for a varsity runner, maybe I'm right there at average, maybe slightly above it, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I think you can be terribly, terribly bad at something. Like, I'll give you an example. I'm really bad at drawing and artistry. I'm terrible. So bad. But there was one day, I think about a year or two ago, maybe 3, that I just sat down and for like maybe 3 or 4 hours just drew a portrait, and it wasn't good. I can tell you right now, it wasn't good. It wasn't, anything that would have lined the walls of the Metropolitan. But I really enjoyed doing it, and I was proud of the final outcome. So I would say that was successful. I think this question depends a lot on your perspective. And what are you using to define success? So if you're asking if the amount you love something can be your definition for the amount that you've succeeded at it, I would say yes, 100%, that can be your definition of success. You can say, oh, I'm successful at my job because I love doing it. You can say I'm successful at running because I love running. I'm successful at listening to music because I love listening to music, right? Listening to music is kind of bad because you can't be bad at listening to music. That was a bad choice. So you can look at it from that lens, or you can shift a lens and you can say, I enjoy running, but I run a 28 minute, 29 minute, half an hour 5K, right? It takes me 2.5 hours to run a mile. So in that lens, you're not successful. But then there's also perspective in that, right? Because what if a month ago it took you 3 hours to run a mile, and now you've just cut your mile time down by a half hour? That's impressive, right? I would love to half-hour PR in any one of my events. That'd be crazy. So yeah, I think that success is definitely heavily dependent on perspective. In a capitalistic society, a lot of people look to money for success. How much money are you making at the end of the day? And that makes sense, right? Because money is the means in let's say in the United States of America, money is the means by which you feed your family, you feed yourself, clothe yourself, provide yourself shelter, provide yourself warmth. It's your ability to survive, and then eventually, once you have enough money, live luxuriously. So by that lens, yes, you are 100% successful if that's the way you want to look at it. But then, right, there are a lot of people on Wall Street that have killed themselves. There are a lot of Wall Street workers who make 6 figures, worth hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, and they kill themselves because something goes wrong at their job. And I mean, I don't know. It's just like, you don't love your job, even though you're, one might say you're successful because you're making a lot of money in your job. I would say, in my eyes, the perfect success would be a balance of both. So ideally, I want to have a family of 4, 5 maybe, 2 or 3 kids. I don't know. Definitely a dog. That's all I know for certain. I would be okay with anywhere from 1 to 3 kids. Maybe 3 might be pushing it, 1 to 2. But 100% a dog is in the equation, no doubt. And I'm going to work as a studio engineer with to work with a band I love, to work for a company I love. And maybe I'm not like super in love with it, like maybe it's not exactly what I want to do. Maybe I don't spend my time waiting to get back into the studio, right? But I still enjoy it. I still like it a lot. I still learn a lot from it. And on top of that, let's say I'm working in a good studio, so I'm bringing home, a good amount of money, enough money to provide my family with what they need, right? With food, with running water, with electricity, with a house, being able to pay rent, with clothing. If I can not only make enough money to have my family survive, but also thrive, right? To go the extra mile and be able to for example, like if my son or my daughter wanted to go out and play softball or baseball, being able to afford to buy them a bat rather than having to borrow someone else's. Just something as small as that, but that's really like the luxuriousness, right? Being able to have your kids say, I want to play guitar, and then you go out and you're able to buy them a guitar and buy them lessons, and then 6 months later they don't want to play guitar anymore, but that's okay, and then 10 years down the road they'll pick it up again, right? So I don't know. I think that the ideally, love is not all there is to success in my mind. Because if I love work, love what I'm doing, and I'm making minimum wage flipping patties at McDonald's, and I come home and I've got no money and I'm out on the streets, I don't love that, right? But I love going back to McDonald's. I can't live at McDonald's. What am I going to do with the rest of my time? So, in my eyes, that's success is the perfect storm of love for what you're doing, who you're doing it with, and the amount of money you're getting back. And there's also the factor of how good you are at it. And I think that also factors into the amount of money that you get. I mean, at least in the line of work that I'm looking at, like no one's paying a bad studio engineer that much money, right? You're getting fired. So yeah, I think success is the mix of those three things: is skill, love, and money. At least in a capitalistic society. And I would love to say that money doesn't matter, but at the end of the day it does, because that's how you keep yourself and your family safe. So yeah, that's my take on that. Moving on to question 3. What is the worst looking instrument you've ever seen? And this question is asked by my good friend Sal, who asks a lot of questions. Thank you for that, Sal. By the way, before I start answering this question, I am running very, very low on questions. So if you have anything you want to know, any burning question, it can be anything as simple as this question, or it can be anything as complicated as, like religious stuff. Again, I'm here to talk about my own opinions. I'll talk about anything, provided that it's, obviously there are some lines. It can be like nothing about another person. It can be nothing super personal or like specific to one situation. But any general questions about life, about anything, I will be more than willing to address. So if you have any questions, please email those to dbdcaleb@gmail.com. That's dbdcaleb@gmail.com. So anyways, moving on to the question by Saul. The straight up worst looking instrument I've ever seen. So I've seen a lot of ugly instruments in my time. Especially as a percussionist. Some percussion instruments just look stupid. Something that comes to mind is the ratchet. And the ratchet is essentially an upside down V that is wood, and it has a metal casing around it, and you hold it from the bottom. And going up toward the top, which is the center, you have 2 separate wooden bars like popsicle sticks, and you have that on the other side too. And you have a crank in the middle that is connected to like a sort of like a water well type thing in the middle. And when you pull the crank, you get a sound that's like... just like that. Sounds exactly like that. My ratchet impression is crazy. And that thing just looks so weird. And not only that, it sounds disgusting. So the ratchet is gross. I'm trying to think, what other just crazy percussion things have I seen? Oh my gosh, what is it called? Is it called a guio? There's one instrument that is shaped like a narrow American football, and it's got 3 holes on the center, like a face, like someone an eye, open mouth, just like an O mouth, like that one emoji, you know the one I'm talking about, where he just like kind of has his mouth slightly open. It's like that face. And on the other side, you have, what's the word I'm looking for? Like you have grooves in it, and basically what you do is you take the face and you stuff your fingers in it and you hold it on the other side, and you take like a triangle beater or a drumstick and you drag it up and down the gyro, and it goes just like that. Other worst looking instruments. Let's see. I don't know. I think a lot of instruments look cool. I think a bassoon looks stupid. I really do. I'm tired of pretending bassoons don't look stupid. I'm sorry. They do. They're so big. They don't need to be that big. Like, the bassoon looks like it's about to back me down into the post at any time, and I'm terrified of that. It really doesn't need to be that big. There's there are like those, like whatever the Beatles played, the intro riff on Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds with, is just like this crazy like 20-stringed guitar-esque instrument that's just ridiculous. And it just looks, I don't know, that thing looks weird. I'm going to be completely honest with you, that thing looks weird. And there are a lot of like guitar-esque instruments like that look weird. But on the opposite hand of that, in terms of the most beautiful instruments I've ever seen, any marimba is gorgeous. And if you don't know what a marimba is, it's a xylophone that I just cringed inside saying that it was a xylophone, because as a percussionist, as a mallet percussionist, I really don't want to say that, but it's the best description I have for it. It's a xylophone-esque mallet percussion instrument that's just made of hollowed out wood on the top, and then on the bottom you have what's called resonators, which are these pipes that when you play a note, the sound actually resonates through. And a well-kept marimba is gorgeous, and when you play that with like heavier mallets, oh my gosh, the tones you can produce from a beautiful marimba are just, I mean, they're just beautiful. Jimmy Page's guitar is one of the most attractive things I have ever seen in my life. That, oh my goodness, that thing is just, man, like, wow. I don't even know what I'd do. Like, if I were Jimmy Page, like, I wouldn't even be able to pick it up. I would just sit there and stare at it. I wouldn't even be able to play that thing. It's too sacred. Yeah, so that's my take on that question. We only have 4 questions today. And this question comes again from Sal. And Sal asks, why do people get stuck in the same bad habits for years, despite constant attempts at beating them? This one is something that I'm probably not prepared to say, and this is something that I really, really want to give a little disclaimer to. This is not professional help. This is not anything along those lines. This should not be taken as something to live your life by or anything along those lines. But there's a very poignant line. It's a motif in Tyler the Creator's Igor, where the voice actor, it's a sample from a line. I don't know where it's from, but it might actually just be a line that they recorded. And he says, "Exactly what you run from, you end up chasing." And there is to me something so profound about that. What I picture is the two sides of your brain fighting. And I know that I've also struggled with this in the past, about wanting to return to something that I can't return to, and that if I could return to, I wouldn't be happy. And I know that. But the way I view it is, there's part of your brain that is viewing the facts of the matter. That is saying, you'll be healthier without this habit. You'll be healthier if you turn away from this. And then there's just the other part of your brain that has maybe been tainted by this concept, by this habit, and you're kind of addicted to it. And it's this just force of nature that forces you to go back to it, that convinces you that you will not be happy without this, that you will never again find happiness or contentness with yourself without this habit. And I think that even speaks to things like addiction, to things like serious addiction, drug addiction, for example, is the first thing that comes to mind. Is I think every person that's been seriously addicted to drugs, to the point of losing their home, to the point of losing their family, something along those lines, knows that it is bad for them. I think that every person who does something along those lines has to know deep down that this is terrible for their life, for their body, for their health, and they want to stop. But there's the other part of their brain that is so addicted and tainted by whatever it is that they cannot, and that they're always being forced back into it. And on the subject of that, going back to the original question, I think people get stuck and wind up getting back to these old habits because they don't necessarily know the right ways to eliminate those habits. And I think that is really the hardest part of anything like that, because I genuinely, I don't know, as someone who's maybe necessarily still going through something like that, as someone who's maybe a lot of my problems with that have kind of phased out over the years. I haven't felt the need to go back, and I'm sure that there's something that's happened that subconsciously triggered that in my mind. But I've personally just never felt a need since like a certain point in time to go back to something that I was since continuously going back to. But I don't know. Kind of lost my train of thought there. I just really think it's a matter, and it's unique for every person, of finding the right thing that will help you eliminate what is bad for you, right? And the thing about a lot of drug addicts who have lost their home, who have lost everything, they cannot afford to go somewhere like rehab, right? The people that need the rehab the most are people that don't have insurance necessarily, maybe, are people that probably don't have the money to pay for rehab, and maybe don't have anyone who necessarily cares about them enough to help them out. And I'm thinking of, I'm not thinking of like an average person. I'm thinking of someone who's strung out on the streets of New York City, who is wearing, nothing but a torn shirt and some torn shorts in the middle of winter, and all they have is some money they're scraping together to get their next hit, right? I think a lot of people maybe don't have access to the things they need, and some other people maybe might not know where to start, maybe might not know where to look to break that vicious cycle and get out of the bad habits. So that's what I would say. I would say people that do that haven't found the right way to break out of that cycle yet, and that's okay, because it takes everyone time. And yeah, I would again say that there are people that care about you. There are people that want to see you break these habits. And don't give up. Keep fighting. Stay away from it. And talk to people. Talk. That is, in my mind, the most healthy thing you can do is have a discussion with someone about your feelings. Have a discussion about someone about your thoughts. Talk it out. Speak what's on your mind. It will help a ton. So that's all our questions for today. Thank you guys for listening to the Cayeluhb Podcast. Unfortunately, this episode could not be on SoundCloud because they have begun to limit the amount of space that you can put up on SoundCloud. So unfortunate, but YouTube will always be there for me. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. Again, my email, if you have any questions, is dbdcayeluhb@gmail.com. That's CALEB. My Twitch is twitch.tv/Cayeluhb, CAYELUHB. My Spotify and anything else will be linked in the description, as well as some of my original music. So this is Cayeluhb, wishing you a good night, a good morning, whenever you're watching, wishing you a good time, and thank you for listening. Have a nice day.